Thank you for tuning in, Voice of Reason Boston. This is Tamisha Civil, and we will be giving a quick facts about Black History Month. And our first pioneer is going to be Madam C.J. Walker. She was an entrepreneur, civil rights advocate, and a philanthropist. Madam C.J. Walker was born Sarah Breedlove, created a specialized hair product for African American hair, and was one of the first American women to become a self-made millionaire. So tune in to Voice of Reason Boston, and we will have today our executive director, Michella Campbell. So stay tuned. Thank you for tuning Voice of Reason Boston. This is Tamisha Civil, the host of the show. This morning we have Michella Campbell. She is the Executive Director for the Youth and Family Enrichment Services in Boston. Not only that, she is also a pastor and a leader for her community, and she's a motivational speaker. So we're going to get to know her today, get to know what she's all about and how she got into the position and what has God given her to do and if she is fulfilling it, and what can she tell us today to continue to help the community of Boston or any community that we're living in. Michella, good morning.
Good morning, Tamisha. Thank you for having me. I'm always so happy to be with you.
Yes.
We come a long way, and we know each other for a long time. And
we have.
Your mom is my Auntie Kawa, and we've known each other for a good while. So Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and I think it's most important to not only, I know people know you, but I don't think they know you the way I know you and what you've done and what a wonderful person that you are and what you're doing in the community of Boston. I know that you are an executive director for YOFES, which is YOFES, which is Youth and Family Enrichment Services. Can you tell me, first let's talk about yourself. Tell me what you're all about, your background history, so that our listeners and our viewers on Facebook can know a little bit more about you.
I think that's always such a loaded question when somebody says, tell me about yourself, because everybody's life has so many layers that makes them who they are. And oftentimes we never understand that what makes you who you are is not just, the successes, but it's also the failures as well.
Right.
So I would say if somebody were to ask me, as you have, Michelle, who are you? I think I am the sum total of leadership experiences that I have seen from other people that I have emulated, such as my mom and my father, such as church leaders and people in the community that I have emulated. But I'm also a combination of different fails that I've had from myself, as we all have, as we grow up and become and develop into different individuals. I'm somebody who, I love music. I love to play around with people. I love to sing. I love social justice issues.
Yes.
I love the Lord above all. I love my family. I'm somebody who, as I read and as I meet people, I feel like I'm being built up every single day into somebody different.
Absolutely.
So I can't tell you who Michelle is. I can tell you Michelle is somebody who tries to be the best person she can be.
Yes.
But I can tell you Michelle changes every day.
Yes.
And I know that even through this conversation that we're having, I may change again. So ask me again in 5 minutes.
In your educational background, I think it's so important for people to know what your educational background. I know you're a wonderful Haitian woman, and what is your educational background?
Well, I went to Northeastern University for undergraduate work, and I originally wanted to be a surgeon. And so I did biology at Northeastern University undergrad, but then analytical chemistry broke me. This is one of my failures that I talk about. Analytical chemistry broke me, and so I decided I'm not going to do that. Right. I ended up working in healthcare as an insurance person for a long time, negotiating contracts, etc. And then I decided I was going to go back to school because I do like to deal with people and I do like social issues. And I decided to go back to UMass Boston and get a bachelor's in sociology, but they were having a dual program, so I did a bachelor's and a master's in sociology.
That's wonderful.
And I found that when you go back to school at an older age, and these are for those of you who would like to go back to school and you're thinking maybe I'm too old to go back to school, you do so much better when you're an older person.
Yeah.
I did so much better the second time around, and I graduated cum laude at my class.
That's excellent. So I know you're the executive director for Youth and Family Enrichment Services. Can you tell me what is YOFES?
Youth and Family Enrichment Services is a program that started about 17 years ago. And it was founded by, the pioneer of it is Dr. Nicole Prudent. But she had a number of colleagues that worked with her to develop programs for Haitian youth. She's a pediatrician in Boston Medical Center. And at the time, 20 some odd years ago, when you had the HIV epidemic, she was dealing with a lot of young people who didn't understand what was happening to their parents, to their loved ones who were dying because of the stigma within the Haitian community of talking to your children about HIV or about sexual trans or sex at all.
Right.
And so she developed this program. She and some other colleagues developed a program where they not only taught kids about health, but they had an outlet for young people. And their flagship program was a music program, Open Access for Music Education, where they took these young people and they used music as therapy. It was at the bottom of a church, and they would use music as therapy. And then afterwards, they started to do homework. And then afterwards, they started to do community leadership development programs. And so YOFES right now, Youth and Family Enrichment Services right now, does 4 things. It has 4 prongs. We have a health program where we have contracts with Boston Public Health Commission, and we teach teens and young adults sexual education and sexual health. We have an after-school program that we do every day.
Right.
We have a summer program that we have, and we also have our music, Open Access for Music Education program.
And we all know, the Haitian culture really doesn't talk about, sex or it's all about church, education, and then you stay home.
Right.
And I think these kind of programs that we hear of, it's important for us to share with the community, especially in the Haitian community, because a lot of times certain things are silent in the house. I don't remember my mom ever talking to me about sex.
Right.
I don't ever remember my mom talking to me about things that the world is talking about. We don't talk about it at home. She only focused on church.
Right.
She only focused on your education. She said, "Oh, your education is number one." I get that, but once you're ready to go out into the world, what are they setting you up for?
And I think as you talk about that, because we never learned about it and we never talked about it, what's beautiful about this particular program is the person who leads the sexual education part of the program is a pastor and a doctor.
Excellent.
And so as a pastor, he's going out and teaching individuals about sexual education, because what has happened in the community, even as we grew up in church, and we know plenty examples where yes, we went to church. Yes, we did a whole bunch of different things. But because our parents were afraid to talk to about us, we were exploring, or a lot of kids explored.
Absolutely.
And then you end up getting pregnant. You had children early, whatever the situation may be. And so programs like this, it's important for us not to kind of hide it, talk about it so that we know that our kids are not doing the things that they're not supposed to do.
And
knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And it's unfortunate that when I was growing up, most of the Haitian community didn't have that knowledge because they were hiding some of the kids. When I was growing up, I can say that my parents, I asked my mom to be a ballerina one day, and she said, "No, you can't be. Christians are not a ballerina." I'm like, when I got older, I'm like, "This is what you said to me. Do you remember?" She said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know." You know what I mean? She was so close-minded, and she just came from Haiti. And she wasn't aware of her surroundings, and she really she was around people who didn't know, the blind leading the blind. Right. So I think it's very important that we have programs like this in a Christian background to continue in the community, because whether we talk about it or not, there's still a population out there that doesn't know.
And I think the thing is, we are, as I said in the intro when you asked me who I was, we are a sum total of our experiences. And as somebody who studied sociology, we study the world. We study the
Right.
people who are around us. And who you are, who an individual is, has a lot to do with the environment that they come from. It's not that our parents are ignorant.
No.
It's not that they don't want what's best for us. It's what is accessible to them. And there's a level of accessibility for knowledge and information that we, coming from a Haitian country, from a poorer country, not having access to proper education, not having access to proper health care, there are still a lot of stigmas in terms of what you can and cannot do,
Right.
even with Haitian people living in the United States, Massachusetts. I was somewhere and this one woman who was doing something, I saw her. She's a young lady like we are. And she has a daughter, and she made the daughter take La Loa, pure aloe vera. It's disgusting. But she was like, oh, you have to take it pure because that's what's going to make you feel better. It's going to make you healthier.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, how many millions of kids have never had La Loa and are healthy?
Right.
But it's because of the totality of her
Right.
environment and what she's learned. That's what she follows.
Yeah.
And so it's so important for us to be educated, so important for us
It
to
is.
hear one another so that we can learn more and more about each other.
And I think there's no better way than doing that with music.
Oh,
Because I know music feeds the soul, and no matter what language you speak, whatever type of music you play, it always connects you to that song that you're listening to or to people. It's a language of love, and I think that's great that there's a program where people where people can send their kids to play music and to go around the world. And you have a background in singing. You're a wonderful singer. I've heard you sing. You were in 2015. You sang for the governor.
Yeah, his inauguration.
For his inauguration, and you sang for some internationally for famous Donnie McClurkin. Give me some more names.
Oh, I can't remember. A number of people.
Of people.
It wasn't just me. I was part of a group called Grace Singers, and I was leading music there. Shout out to Leroy Street, my buddy. Although we fight all the time on Facebook, but I was leading. I ended up leading worship for church, which is where the governor met me and asked me to do that. And so in the process of being in church, this is a wonderful thing about exposing your kids to music and not being afraid to let them go out and explore.
Right.
Is that in the process of doing it, we became so wrapped up in singing and being in groups and whatever that doors were open for us to sing in really great places. We traveled to New York, we traveled to Virginia, we traveled to Georgia. I mean, we have a Grace Singers Day in Georgia. I don't know what the date is because it was many years ago and I'm too old right now to remember. But we had those things. And so it was a wonderful experience being able to travel multiple places. Singing in different countries was fantastic. And just kind of being able to be exposed to different cultures and different people, which is really wonderful.
That's excellent. And also, when I asked you about, who you are, it's funny how God puts us in certain situations,
Oh, yeah.
and it comes back to you being the executor of a program for children who in the community can use instruments and to, just play music. So what is your goal as the executive director for this program?
I think it's really continuing to follow in the footsteps of the predecessors, the people who have come behind us, and trying to expand it more. I think the needs are so much greater in the Haitian community now. Before I kind of go into that, I want to kind of just say, as we're talking about music, the beauty of the organization and the beauty of music, where you even were saying that music feeds the soul and it opens opportunities for people. The OMAC program, Open Access for Music Education program, is modeled after a program called El Sistema. The El Sistema model is something that was developed in Venezuela. And what it was this particular composer, this musician person, found kids who were in the poorest areas, taught them how to play classical music, strings, and all these wonderful classical pieces. And the kids, as a result of it, they were off the streets. They didn't participate in gang violence. He was able to feed them. And he also opened up their minds to something that was so much greater than where they were. Because socially, if you think of, okay, I'm going to a classical music concert, the people that you're thinking that are playing violin and double bass and cello and whatever are not people who look like you and I.
No, absolutely
right?
not. Yeah.
And the exposure that it gives these young brown beautiful babies is so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We have kids in our program that this past summer who started in the program when they were 6 years old, now in high school, about to end,
Mm-hmm.
who, when they started off, they were doing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on their violin,
Mm-hmm.
and then this summer received scholarships to go to the Los Angeles
Oh,
Philharmonic.
wow.
And if you think about, I'm getting chills to think about it, if you think about the greatness of your parent or that person's parent come to the United States having no education,
Right.
no access to anything, not that they of anything, but they were smart enough to put their kids in programs that allows them to do so much more than we can. Everybody has their limitation.
Yes.
And I've got to know I can only go so far, and afterwards, Tamisha, I got to give it to you
Yeah.
so that you can push my child to the next level. And when you might not have an education, you might not have what the world says you need, but if you have enough common sense and God-given intelligence to say, you know what, I'm going to have the discernment to put my kid in a good program, and your child now is exposed to people at the Los Angeles Philharmonic. They got scholarships from the Boston Philharmonic. They're
Wow.
playing for Mr. Benjamin Zander, who is the greatest composer for the Boston Philharmonic. That is so wonderful.
It
That
is.
is so
It is.
impressive. That's so big. And that allows these kids to have an exposure to a population that they would never have before. And that's what makes an individual.
And what kills me is the whole immigration thing that's going on right now, building the wall or whatever. It kills me because we do have people, we have genuine good people that comes from nothing, that just wants to give their children the opportunity. They want to give their children the opportunity, and when they have that opportunity, their children becomes great. They become a leader in their community. And we need to have more of our brown and black children be part of these programs. We need to have more of these programs because the sky's the limit.
Right.
They can do it. And I think it's very important that people who's listening to this segment get their children into a program.
Right.
If I had told my parents, and we're talking about the education
Yeah.
thing, if I told my parents when I was growing up I was going to be a singer, they're going to like, a singer?
Exactly.
What are you going to do with a singer?
Right.
But there's a lot of things you
Right.
can do.
Right.
You know,
Right.
there's a lot of opportunities. You just have to find them. But it's just going back to the educational piece. Someone good enough, a doctor who know where they came from, who wants to give other children the opportunity in the community, sets programs for them to participate. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
I think I want to put a plug in for kids learning music. When you start a child off in learning music at a young age, it develops math skills, language skills in children. So especially when this is another brilliancy. I mean, Dr. Pruda doesn't like when I talk about it, but she's really a brilliant woman. And I want to give a shout out to her. She retired this week, and she's an
Wow.
awesome woman and an awesome pioneer in the community. But when you can think to give a child who's just come into the country, they don't have the language skill, they don't have the social skills, and you teach them how to play music,
Yes.
classical music, it develops in them an ability to do math better. They increase their education in school, their grades get better. Their social skills have gotten better, and we have the record to show that it does work.
And then I know we talked briefly about the programs that the organization offers. What is it, the programs that we want to instill in these children? What is the focus of these programs so that when the children goes into the organization, and what do we want them to come out of it?
I think the number one thing that we should always want our kids to come out of it is we always want our kids to be exposed and have access to things that are greater than what we've had,
Right.
and that we can offer.
When I was working at the district attorney's office, and please don't laugh at me for those who are listening, I was in an office and I was working with an investigator, and he had a list of hats. And I was like, wow, you like these kind of hats? I mean, what are they? And he was telling me those are hats that different gangs wear as an affiliation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never knew that. I was like, so what if I had one of those hats and I went into one of the
areas.
He was like, you could have a problem. I was like, I never knew. I'm thinking about myself. I'm thinking about my siblings, my cousins. People who are in church really don't know anything about gangs or the affiliation of gangs. And I'm still learning as I get older, and as I work in the criminal justice field, I'm still learning a lot of things that I didn't know and I wasn't exposed to when I was growing up. So if I'm not Just imagine the rest of the population.
We talk about kids who are in church, that's one thing. But as a mom and a wife, if I were to go to a store, Bob's Sporting Goods or wherever, and I buy a hat and I don't even know that that's something that's affiliated with somebody else. And my son, who's 13 years old, wears a hat and says, oh, I'm going to go to my friend Bub's house who lives in Dorchester. And he gets to the house and he's walking there and somebody sees the hat and they shoot him. These are the things, unfortunately, we talk about these kids get involved in gangs, but we don't know the struggle in the street.
Right.
You have to understand why these kids get involved. It's because they need protection. I can't tell you in my time pastoring the number of kids, because our church was on the corner of Park Street and Washington Street in Dorchester. I can't tell you the number of kids who would say, you know what, Pastor Michella, you guys don't understand. People talk about us, but they don't understand the fact that when I walk out of my house, I can't walk down the street to go to school because there's going to be a gang that owns this block that's going to push me to do X, Y, and Z. And as parents and as community leaders and as people, we need to get involved in kids, and don't get involved in their life by pointing your finger and saying, you don't do good, you don't do good.
Exactly.
Get to know what the kid likes. Get to know who they are. Get to know, when you see a child, that was one thing I was very famous for. When I would see a young person walking down Park Street or walking on Dorchester Ave, and I would see them, if I'm standing in the corner and you have your pants down to be, I'd be like, come here, baby, come in. They're thinking I'm going to say something nice. I'd be like, why are your pants like this? What happened to you? Where do you think that came from? And they're like, oh, come on, this is the style. And they're pushing it up. And they'll automatically pull it up, not knowing that that's what they're doing. They're understanding that what you're doing right now doesn't necessarily fit. And you got to love them into the right direction.
We do have to love them. And I would say that a lot of us are judgmental in our own ways. And most of the time, we adapt to our culture. You know what I mean? And a lot of young people, whatever is out in the culture, they just do it for style. No intention of behind it. And it's unfortunate when someone's seeing you walk down, down the street, and they see you, they probably associate with, oh, got a bum side, or look at this bum, or they must be doing drugs. And it's just disheartening, and it's sad, because I think instead of judging what we see, we get to know their background. We get to know where they come from. Maybe they didn't have a role model figure. Maybe they don't know enough. Maybe they only know what they saw. But they just need that one person, like yourself, executive director of your program, or anyone who's in a community that is doing something for their community, reaching out to someone and just be like, hey, what's up? What's your background?
And I'll go a step further and say that if you are somebody who lives somewhere and you see a kid, or you're driving somewhere and you see a kid who may look like they've got the hoodie on and the hat and the pants are don't automatically assume that they're a bad kid.
Yeah.
Don't automatically assume. It could be just like that style, but they're an A student. Last night I was hanging out with some friends, and a friend of mine brought his little brother and was like, we were hanging out. The kid was cute, but he had his sweats on or whatever. And he's like, we're celebrating him because he got all straight A's. This 18-year-old kid or 17-year-old kid. And you would, if he was walking down the street, you wouldn't say he was an honor roll student.
Not. Absolutely
so
not.
We need to get out. Human beings, everybody needs to get out. We all have prejudices that we need to move ourselves out of being prejudiced for whatever reason. And I think as we examine Black History Month, and as we even think about February being, depending on how you feel, Valentine's Day, or the month of love, where we celebrate love, that we need to put those two things together and say, you know what, I need to examine my own prejudices, whether I'm black, white, I don't care what color you are, yellow, green, doesn't matter, whether I'm male, female, whatever the gender is, and let's celebrate and understand that I am not what the society tells me that I have to be. I need people to get to know who I am, and we need to get to know who other people are, and break down those prejudice walls.
And any of my listeners who want to give us a call, has any questions for us about this program, definitely call me at 617-328-7514. Again, the number is 617-328-7514. Michella and I will try to answer any questions that you may have about this program and how you can be part or even volunteer. Speaking of volunteer, a person like myself or anyone who's listening in who wants to be, say, a mentor or who wants to donate, what can they do?
We currently have a huge GoFundMe that's going on right now.
Okay.
And I would love for everybody, if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you've heard what our program has done for the community, incidentally, yearly we manage or we touch about 500 youth lives yearly, annually. We have contracts with the Boston Public School System between 200 plus kids for the health program. Our summer and our after school program and the music program have hundreds of kids. And it's really impacting, but because you mentioned the immigration issue, we know over the last 2.5 years, a lot of people have left their jobs because of fear,
Yeah.
no longer are able to work. And so as a result of it, our budgets for being able to support kids, because already we're probably the cheapest program, and if people can't afford it, we used to let people come in even if you
Right.
couldn't afford it and work. But because so many people are not working and cannot afford to do it, or in hiding right now because they're afraid that they're going to be deported or their
Right.
child's going to be deported, our funding has gone down significantly. So we started a GoFundMe page. So if you go to GoFundMe /YoFest music programs,
Right.
donate whatever you can, whatever it is that you
5,
have,
10,
5,
doesn't
10,
matter.
15, 20, 25, 100,000, I love it. We'll take it, whatever you have, because every dollar that you give goes towards allowing another child to have access to a scholarship to be part of the music program. And who knows, it could be your child, it could be your neighbor's child, but you need to
Or you can
open
sow a seed, into a
somebody
child's
else.
life. Maybe you have a nephew or a niece.
You
that
will reap what you sow.
Exactly. And you know what? Before I came here, the preacher who was preaching before this segment was talking exactly about reaping what you sow, and how it's important to sow into family, friends, your church. Anywhere you sow, you will get that back, and I guarantee it. For those who are listening in and talking about the program, is it free, or is there a small fee?
There is a fee. The fee for the music program is $80 per month.
Okay.
That's it. And the kids get lessons every single week to do that. Of course, the summer program is different because, we're based on a summer program. And the health program is free. As a matter of fact, if individuals are interested and you have teenagers and you're interested in having your kid do this health program, we actually pay the teenagers the stipend.
Oh, wow.
To participate in the health program. So you can call our office number at area code 617-364-0370 and say that you have a teenager that you want to be part of this program, or the teen is interested. They have to be interested because we're not going to chase them down.
Right.
And they have to follow through on it. But we're doing important things. So please, we're looking for people to volunteer, especially for the summer program. We need administrative help. If we have people who can help us write grants and you're good with fundraising, we really need people like that.
Right.
Who can spread the word.
And also, I think it's very important, even if it's $80 a month, I'm pretty sure the organization can work something out with that parent.
Oh, yeah.
If it's a single family home, or is it a grandparent or a guardian who's raising a child that needs that extra support, I'm pretty sure your organization can sit down and talk to them and see what they can do.
And we have. And I think the thing is, what's sad now is our numbers have decreased in terms of the number of kids that we can support this year because of the fact that there are a lot of parents who can't. Before, there were many of the parents who used to come that paid nothing.
Right.
And we could afford to have them pay nothing. But now funding is really becoming an issue, and so we really need the support.
And I think you are very lucky for people to know you. And I think it's very important that people get to know YoFest and what the organization is all about, and what other... I mean, you're the perfect person to be the executive director because of the passion, your leadership skills, and not only that, we're gonna tap in a little bit about your pastor leadership, and what strategies would you say you use as a community leader, and as well as leading a congregation or anyone that you're ministering to?
I think the one thing that being a pastor teaches individual people is that you always have to hear the story behind the story and see people through the eyes of how God sees them.
Yeah.
People will come to you in many different ways, and people will come to you whether they're saying that they're perfect or they can be saying that I'm nothing. But God has a plan, and God knows who these people are. And when you can have discernment and tap into what you believe or what your spirit is telling you, this person needs X, Y, and Z. It's about a sensitivity, I think is what is the bottom line of it. And oftentimes, people are just not sensitive enough to see the issues. People are not sensitive enough to care for somebody else. And that's an important piece, is you've got to care and you've got to be sensitive to the needs of other people.
And your pastoral role, it can be hard too, because you're a human being,
Absolutely.
human being at the end of the day. And you have a family, you have a husband and a child, but how do you cope when you have members that come to you for advice, and then but not forgetting who you are as a human being? Because oftentimes some people forget pastors, they're human beings. And we pray for our congregation all the time, but who's praying for me? Who's helping me keep my mental state in one?
Right.
So how do you manage that?
I think it's always good to have a network of people where it's iron sharpens iron. When it comes to ministering and counseling with individuals as they need, that part kind of comes easy.
Okay.
Because you're anointed to do certain things, and it's just inside of you just to be able to speak to people and to counsel people. I think where it becomes difficult is when you're at the home and when you're relaxed and you're no longer in your pastor mode.
Right.
And then you have to be your wife mode and your mommy mode, and you got to yell at the son, and you're yelling at your husband, or whatever the situation may be. That's when it becomes there's a difficulty there. That's where there's a strain that happens, and that's why oftentimes, because people put pastors on a pedestal and make them appear to be superhuman or not human at all. These are divine beings. We are not God. Nobody can touch Jesus. He stands alone, and so does God. He looks down on his throne, and we can't touch him.
Right.
We're never going to be like him. And so it's not safe for anybody to put somebody else on a pedestal and say, because you have the title of pastor, you are perfect. Because you will fail.
Yes.
It will cause you to stumble. The person who receives that accolade, if they're not careful, they'll fall.
Yes, that's true.
And the person who's giving the accolade, as you are watching that person, human things happen and people do fall, and that's going to cause your faith to fall.
That's true.
And so it's so important for people to understand what is a pastor? A pastor is a flawed individual, but has enough sense to say, Lord, help me. I'm sorry. Let me give to somebody else. That's the only difference between a pastor and somebody else, if they're honest, is I'm just as flawed as the next person. I am just as flawed.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody the other day, people was like, oh, pastors shouldn't get angry. I was just like, I heard in the word that Peter cussed when they came to him about Jesus. He said he cussed, honey. He cussed. And so, but yet, this was the person that Jesus said, this is the rock, and upon this rock I shall build my church, and the very gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Yeah. And so, if Jesus can see that this rock, who is flawed, who will deny him, before he even denied him, who has denied him 3 times, but Jesus can still prophesy into his life and say, but this is the rock upon whom my church will be built, and the very gates of hell will not prevail against it. Don't see me as somebody who's superhuman. I'm just as frail and as wicked and as whatever as that Peter rock person. But God is saying that's Michella, and upon that girl, I can build the kingdom of heaven, and the very gates of hell will not prevail against it.
And because you are a natural born leader, I think that's why you're able to manage that role the way that you're supposed to, and knowing that you're human at the same time. And not only that, you're an entrepreneur. You had 2 wonderful parents that raised you, and your mother is the pioneer in the Haitian community, I would say. She's also a mentor to me. She's the owner of Le Foyer. And how, looking at this wonderful woman, pioneer in Boston Haitian community, she's everywhere looking to support everyone, and that's why the apple didn't fall far from the tree, because your mother, everywhere I am, I see your mother, and she's there to help you. She'll roll up her sleeves anytime. She will be there for you no matter what. She doesn't need to know. You don't need to be high on the pedestal. You can be the lowest of the low. She's there with you. She doesn't see anything. She just wants to be there and help you. How does that feel?
You know,
And she has wonderful pati, by the way.
Every time people people talk about my mother, I laugh so much. She truly is a pioneer.
Yeah,
she is what we call in the Haitian community the potomita. She
Yes,
really is.
she is very.
She is a foundational force within the Haitian community and within our family. And I never like to compare myself to Madame Etienne, which is how she's affectionately known as, because her shoes are way too big for me.
Yeah.
Her shoes are very, very, very big. God has graced her with very great skills of leadership, of business, because she'll always tell you, if you ever ask her, how did you develop this and how did you get this business? Lifry has been around in the community for 47 years this year.
Wow.
And she's one of the first businesses, and we are the largest Haitian bakery in Massachusetts. And so if you ask her, well, how did you get here? She'll tell you, I had a dream one day. I prayed, I had a dream, and I heard the Lord. She said, I saw myself on a big white horse riding above the city. And I heard in my ear, and I'm looking around, and she said she's looking around, and she's in awe of this view. And she said, Lord, how do I get here? And the Lord said 3 things to her. In a strong voice, he said, discipline, discipline, discipline. And those are the words, that is the word that she lives by.
Yes.
She's a very disciplined woman. She's not a nice person all the time, I'm not going to lie.
But
she's a hard woman. She's a fair woman. She's a woman who loves the Lord.
And justice.
Don't you want to cross her? She's a just woman, but she is a very disciplined woman. She will get the job done every time, and I just aspire to be like her.
And I truly believe that's why Lifry Bakery has been able to stay for many years in the community of Boston, because she doesn't eat by herself, and she is very disciplined. Yeah. And I think it's very important, and it ties back to who you are, and it ties back the woman that you are. You're solid.
Yeah, man.
You're solid. You're a solid leader. You're a solid pastor. You know who you are. You know where you're going, and you know what you want to do for your community. And I would encourage those who are listening and watching us on Facebook, if you want to get to know Michella more, if you want to reach out to her, she's also a motivational speaker. If you want her to come to your church or come to an event that you would like her to speak for you in your congregation, Michella, please share your information where they can reach out to you.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me, you can always contact me at Michella_Campbell, CAMPBELL @yahoo.com. And that's MISHELLA_CAMPBELL @yahoo.com. Send me a notice. Let me know if you want me to do anything for you and if you want me to speak, and I will be around. I'll get in touch with you.
And do you have a phone number as well that you would like to give?
Not particularly.
Okay. I know you don't want to get millions of calls after the show. Okay. So I want to thank all my listeners and all my Facebookers who are tuning in today. Thank you for your support. Just by watching, just by listening, you're supporting me. I want to thank Phoenix House, a domestic violence shelter that serves women who are suffering from domestic violence and disabilities, for sponsoring this radio show. And just remember, pray, persevere, and be patient, and God will see you through. And again, thank you for tuning in to Voice of Reason Boston.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.